The first light of a cold December morning in 2025 breaks over the East Village, painting the city in a pale, icy glow. The streets are quiet, but beneath the surface, stories of struggle and resilience are already unfolding. For Maria, a mother of two, it's not a gentle awakening. It's a signal to start another day of survival. The cold bites through layers of clothing, and the city's indifference is as chilling as the winter air. She carefully folds the thin blankets that separate her family from the concrete. Her children still asleep beside her in donated coats. Every morning she tries to shield them from the harshness of the world, even as she faces it head-on. Their encampment, a patchwork of cardboard and tarps, is tucked into a storefront alcove serving as bedroom, dining room, and living room. It's a fragile barrier against the elements, and against the eyes of a city that often looks away. Maria checks her phone, hoping for shelter news. The city's system is full. Nothing new. Each notification brings a flicker of hope, but disappointment is a constant companion. She once had a Bronx apartment, working 2 jobs. But when pandemic aid ended in 2023, her landlord raised the rent beyond her reach. The safety net she relied on vanished almost overnight. The eviction notice shattered the life she'd built. Suddenly, the future she'd worked so hard for was gone, replaced by uncertainty and fear. Shelters were overcrowded and chaotic, terrifying for her kids. So, like many, she chose the streets, trading one set of dangers for another. The noise, the lack of privacy, and the constant threat of violence made the shelters feel just as unsafe as the sidewalks. Each day is a routine, finding safe spaces for her children, searching for work, food, and a way out. Public libraries are havens, offering warmth, books, and a brief escape from the chaos outside. Here, her children can read and dream, if only for a few hours. Food pantries and soup kitchens have longer lines than ever. The need is overwhelming, and resources are stretched thin. Maria waits patiently, knowing that every meal is a small victory. Her children's education is in limbo. They haven't attended school regularly in months. The uncertainty weighs on her, as she worries about the future slipping further from their grasp. Every door she knocks on leads to another waiting list, another promise that never materializes. The bureaucracy is endless, and hope is tested at every turn. Maria's struggle is shared by thousands across New York, a city of immense wealth, yet tens of thousands are left behind. The contrast between penthouses and pavement is stark, and the gap grows wider each year. Her fight to keep her family safe is a daily indictment of a system at its breaking point. Every hug, every reassuring word, is an act of defiance against despair. The city feels like a maze with no exit. Each day brings new obstacles, and the path forward is never clear. Maria looks at her sleeping children and wonders what future awaits them in a city that seems to have no room for them. She dreams of stability, of a home, of a chance for her kids to thrive. This is not just a housing crisis, it's a crisis of humanity. The faces on the sidewalk are reminders of the city's broken promises. Maria's story is a powerful testament to a system in urgent need of change. Her resilience, and that of so many others, is a call to action. A reminder that behind every statistic is a family fighting for dignity, hope, and a place to call home. New York City's homeless crisis is more visible than ever before, touching nearly every neighborhood and community. The number of people without stable housing has reached a historic peak, straining the city's resources and compassion. Over 125,000 people now sleep in city shelters each night, double the number from just 3 years ago, a staggering increase that few could have predicted. The shelter system is now operating at 120% capacity, with 60,000 children, many of them attending school each day, living in temporary housing. Emergency shelters have sprung up in hotels, offices, and gymnasiums, transforming familiar spaces into places of refuge overnight. But despite these efforts, the need keeps growing, and the city struggles to keep up with the demand for safe shelter. The crisis extends far beyond shelters. More people are living on the streets, in subways, and in makeshift encampments under bridges and in parks. Many can't access the shelter system or find it untenable, facing long waits, overcrowding, or unsafe conditions. Nearly half of shelter residents are asylum seekers, fleeing violence or instability in their home countries and hoping for a new start. But lifelong New Yorkers are also being priced out, unable to keep up with rising rents and the city's high cost of living. Hundreds of thousands more are on the brink, just one emergency or missed paycheck away from homelessness themselves. This is a humanitarian emergency affecting families, children, and entire communities across the city. Single adults, the elderly, and new arrivals alike are all struggling to find stability and hope in an overwhelmed system. The city's social safety net is stretched to its limits, leaving many to wonder how much longer it can hold. New York's crisis is the result of converging forces. Skyrocketing rents have far outpaced wages, making stable housing unattainable for many. The end of pandemic-era aid in 2023 unleashed a wave of evictions, leaving families with nowhere to go. At the same time, a surge of migrants and asylum seekers arrived, further straining the system. By 2025, migrants made up nearly half the shelter population. This isn't a crisis caused by migrants, but by a lack of affordable housing for all. The shelter system, designed for emergencies, is now a long-term solution for tens of thousands. The city's infrastructure and social services are overwhelmed. The demand for safe, affordable housing far outstrips supply, leaving many with no place to call home. Next step, bro. The city's response has been reactive, expanding emergency shelters and declaring a state of emergency. Over $4 billion was spent last year on shelter and emergency housing, including renting entire hotels. Mayor Adams' administration aggressively cleared encampments, but data shows these sweeps rarely led to permanent housing. Of over 1,000 encampment sweeps, 0 resulted in permanent supportive housing. The city's right to shelter mandate is under strain, with officials seeking ways to modify it. Advocates warn that weakening this right would push more people onto the streets. Plans to build 6,000 new supportive housing units are underway, but progress is slow and threatened by potential federal funding cuts. The city's future plans, and the stability of thousands, hang in the balance. The crisis demands more than temporary fixes. Beyond numbers, the crisis inflicts a devastating human toll. Shelters are overcrowded and chaotic, with families living in open spaces and little privacy. Children's education and development suffer, school attendance drops, and stability is lost. The trauma of homelessness leaves lasting scars. The crisis ripples outward, fueling public anxiety and debate over safety and compassion. The system itself can feel like a barrier, with overwhelming bureaucracy and long waits for housing. It takes an average of 252 days to fill a single affordable unit, leaving people in limbo. The wait erodes hope and dignity, making it harder to believe in a better future. The city is at odds with itself, caught between compassion and frustration. The greatest cost is the erosion of hope. For many, the system feels impossible to escape. As 2025 ends, New York stands on the verge of a new approach. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani pledges to end encampment sweeps and focus on connecting people directly to housing. His administration will adopt a housing-first model, moving people into permanent homes before addressing other challenges. The goal: cut red tape and fill vacant affordable units quickly. Advocates are hopeful, but skepticism remains. Outgoing Mayor Adams calls the plan idealistic. Success depends on reforming bureaucracy, securing funding, and increasing housing stock. The city's future hinges on whether this bold shift can deliver real results. The promise: housing as a human right, not a privilege. The debate is shaped by real voices, people whose lives are directly touched by the city's homelessness crisis, and those who walk the same streets every day. David, living in a Brooklyn encampment, says, "They just throw your stuff away. We need a door with a key." His words echo the frustration and longing for stability felt by so many. Many feel the city's efforts have focused on hiding homelessness, not solving it. Sweeps and clearances often leave people with nowhere to go, deepening the sense of displacement. Outgoing Mayor Adams defends sweeps as necessary for public safety, while Mayor-elect Mamdani calls them a failure, arguing that they only push the problem out of sight. Advocacy groups champion the housing-first plan, insisting permanent housing is the only proven solution. They argue that real progress starts with a stable place to live. The public is divided. Some worry about safety and the changing face of their neighborhoods, while others blame landlords for keeping units vacant and out of reach. The governor calls for a multi-pronged strategy: enforcement, outreach, and services, emphasizing that no single approach will be enough to address such a complex issue. The city's challenge is to balance compassion, safety, and practical solutions while ensuring that no one is left behind in the process. The conversation is no longer abstract, it's about survival, dignity, and the right to a home. For many, it's a daily struggle that can't be ignored. The path forward will require listening to those most affected and making space for their stories in every policy discussion. Real change starts with real voices, voices that demand to be heard and deserve a seat at the table. As a new administration takes office, the debate intensifies. One side prioritizes enforcement and shelter expansion, arguing it's necessary for public order. The other, led by Mamdani, insists the core problem is a lack of housing, not compliance. Sweeps and shelters are costly and ineffective, advocates say. Permanent housing is the solution. The battle for funding is fierce, with federal cuts threatening the housing-first model. The mayor-elect pledges to build 6,000 new supportive units, but immediate solutions are needed. Unlocking vacant units and securing funding are urgent priorities. The debate is no longer theoretical, it's about overcoming real obstacles to deliver real results. The stakes couldn't be higher for New York's most vulnerable. The crisis of 2025 proves the old ways aren't working. To build a different future, New York must treat housing as a basic human right. The city must aggressively pursue a housing-first model, cutting red tape, converting unused spaces, and defending against federal cuts. Housing alone isn't enough. Support services like mental health care, job training, and childcare must be integrated. Prevention is key. Strengthen tenant protections and expand rental assistance. This challenge requires a collective shift in mindset, compassion over judgment, support over stigma. The path forward will be difficult, but the cost of inaction is far greater. New York has always found a way forward in times of crisis. Now, it must summon that same resilience to ensure every New Yorker has a place to call home. The future depends on it.